Welcome back to another episode of Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress. I am here with Marianne Maciejewski. She is one of our members in Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress membership, but I'm really excited about this episode because it's a little different. She's here to tell us about her current journey of starting the biz, like doing the thing. So Marianne, thank you for being a spokeswoman for people all around the world stepping into bridal alterations.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're excited to hear kind of your real-time experience, the real-time emotions, the raw stories. I mean, it's not, hopefully it won't get too crazy, but I think it's natural to feel nervous about launching a business, starting this new endeavor. So you've been in the thick of it just this past year. So all these emotions are nice and fresh. So that's what we want to tap into. For those of you who don't know Marianne yet, she lives in Berks County, Pennsylvania. All right, so Marianne, let's just dive into this. So how about you tell us what inspired you to do the thing? By the way, your office space is beautiful behind you. And I love how you have a cat in the background. So nice touch.
Thank you. So I have been homeschooling for 14 years, and that is coming to an end.
Okay.
My last child, he's a junior in high school.
Very exciting.
And
how many kids do you have altogether?
We have 5.
Okay. And you homeschool all of them?
I homeschooled 4 of the 5. The oldest went through school, and then at one point,
the switch.
We switched. And it was only going to be for a year, and then 14 years. And I knew that I was going to have to do something once my homeschooling career was done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I've been sewing for 35 years now, I guess.
Yeah. And you do customizations. Like, I feel like for decades, you've been doing like custom, like baby outfits or like custom dresses. You've been sewing for family. So it's not like the sewing endeavor is something new. It's just kind of this business endeavor is new. Yeah.
I mean, I did have 2 other businesses that I tried to launch. Like you said, I did christening gowns and communion dresses for a while, but that is very seasonal and very niche. The christening gowns, And then I did some t-shirt quilts for a long time and memory bears, that type of memorabilia stuff. But I didn't really have like the business end of it.
Right. And I think sometimes it's a little tougher, like building a business based on like a gift or like it's not necessarily retail, but it's like, it's not necessarily a necessity either. You know what I'm saying? So it is like a splurge. And so what the kind of cool thing about bridal alterations is it is a necessity for most brides. So it's like, you can plug into something that everybody needs, like that's great. It's hard to really expect that consistent income from like a gift focused business, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was searching. My daughter got married in May. So this is how I got to the point of, doing the thing.
Yeah.
And, she was wearing my wedding dress, which I was going to alter for her. And I started searching YouTube for I knew I wanted to change the bustle a little bit and some other things. And I found Brenda LeBold.
Yes. Sewing techniques.
I just binge watched those. And at some point she had an interview with you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And so then that's how I found you.
Yeah.
I binge watched all of your things that you had at that time up. And I can tell you there were 2 episodes. Well, besides Brenda's little are you a bridal seamstress, a seamstress, and that little tagline at the beginning. And I kept thinking, oh yeah, I am. then when I watched your videos, there were 2 of them that really stuck out to me. And one was Kirsten's.
Oh yeah.
She had just started out. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I'll link that episode in the notes too. That's with Kirsten Gillies. And I forget what it was called, but that was when she had left her kind of big box employer and then started her own from home. Yeah.
And I just remember her saying, just do it. And I was like, okay. And then I watched Fran Miller's episode about
Mhm.
welcoming people into your home, which is
Yes.
what I really wanted to do at the time.
Mhm.
And then I joined the membership
Yeah, perfect
shortly
timing.
after
So
that.
as you were going through like Brenda LeBolt's videos, was there a point where you're like, okay, yes, there are things that are still scary about bridal sewing, but I can do this? Like, did it kind of feel like a little bit empowering? Like, I know what she's talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I actually 5 years ago, it'll be 5 years, I made my daughter-in-law's wedding gown.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And after that, I got a lot of her friends reaching out, and I just remember being like, "No," because I always had that bride
Imposter syndrome.
stigma
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, exactly.
Yes.
Definitely imposter syndrome, but also you always heard, like, horror stories of
Yeah.
bride, and I was like,
That's like, it's funny. That's the person that pops in your head is like, wait, are all brides psycho? Because that's the word on the street, and
Right.
you're afraid to tap into that because of like what potentially you'd be like stepping into with those personalities. So
Yeah.
glad you got over the hump. And yeah, I think if you made your, yeah, now looking back, we can say, oh my goodness, you made your daughter's bridal gown like from nothing. Like, so you're a dressmaker. It's not just like you know how to kind of nip and tuck, but it's like do the whole thing. So of course we can look back and be like, yes, of course you had the skills, but you have to get to your own point where you're like, I have the confidence to take on these dresses that I can't anticipate, or like work with clients that you haven't met before. Like that's kind of a scary thing too. So what do you feel like was like one of the main reasons to hesitate starting this kind of business in the past? I know you said you did like quilting and you did custom christening gowns or whatever, but was it like the fear of working with brides, or was it the intimidation of the work itself, or both?
Well, first of all, like, there was no community. I
Yeah.
didn't know of this
Oh,
community.
yeah.
So, just working on my own and trying to get the word out, it was just, like, word of mouth, and but also, like, I had no knowledge of the business end of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I was very intimidated by that aspect of it, of, like, the
Yes.
taxes and just, pricing and
Mhm.
just
Oh,
that
yeah.
whole business end of it. I could sew. I knew, like, I could
Yeah.
sew, and I knew I liked to do that designing and
Yeah.
everything, but,
Yeah. That's
um
and I feel like that's not uncommon, because when we want to get into this industry, we want to because we love sewing. And like you said, you started watching the Brenda LeVault videos and you're like, okay, I can do this. She's saying stuff that I understand. I've done that kind of work before. But then it's the thought of like, okay, well, then I have to set my prices. I have to start a launch. I have to like tell people that I'm in business. I have to have a website. Like I have to pay taxes. Like all the things feel like super overwhelming. So like
Right.
when you realize that, okay, this is the time to dive in, was it during, like, I'm trying to remember too, was it when your daughter-in-law started planning, or when your daughter started planning her wedding, or when was it that you're like, okay, I want to do this thing? Was it,
It was just me searching how to do a bustle,
oh,
and I mean, because I didn't like the bustle that was online,
yeah,
and I was like, "I wanna do it differently." So
yeah.
I started searching bustles, and I watched her that she had some bustle videos, and
Mhm.
every time you watched the videos, she'd say something about, "You could do this for a living,"
Yeah.
and I just kept watching them, and then eventually
Yes.
came to yours,
That's awesome. Yeah.
and
And
then
I
I
think
saw that
too,
community, the
mhm,
membership
yeah.
really appealed to me.
Yeah. Because you're like, hey, somebody can help me. Like, multiple people can help me with these things that feel a little bit overwhelming. And I
Yeah.
love too, like something to remember if we have listeners who are thinking about, maybe stepping in, but a little bit nervous. An important thing to remember is you only have to take the projects that you want to do that feel doable. So, like, as you're starting out these next couple of years, and, even if you have that kind of sixth sense that maybe this bride will be difficult, or maybe that dress will be a little overwhelming, you see photos come through and you're like, I don't know, you don't need to say yes. And sometimes as people are thinking about getting in the industry, they feel like, okay, I need to know how to do everything. And there's no shame in like the first couple years, literally just taking brides who need like their straps raised and a hem. You know what I'm saying? And keep it simple until you feel really confident with those skills and your communication and your booking and your pricing and just your professionalism. And then it's like, okay, I can maybe do a little more customizations. And I know for you, you enjoy the customizations. Like that's the design part is what you love. But for me, that it took me a while to feel like really confident in promoting that. which is funny because thinking back, like early on, what got me into bridal alterations were these big like overhaul dresses. So I don't know why I had such a fear of them. Like I saw them completed. Okay, they turned out great, but it was still like just a piece of me that didn't feel confident to like take on the big projects until, later on down the line. And it's totally fine to just take what's comfortable for you, you know? So
That's
like,
good because I definitely feel more comfortable making a dress from scratch than doing an alteration because I
wow.
haven't done as many. And then you watch the videos and you're like, oh, that's how you would get into
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me,
That is
making
so funny. That's
something
wild.
from scratch was always more appealing to me because I didn't know what was underneath.
Wow. Wow, my mind is blown. So yeah,
Yeah.
listeners, wherever you are, there's a niche for you right now to get started. And then that can grow the more confident you are in like different skills and different skill sets that you pick up. But just I wanted to kind of plug that in early on in the conversation so that you can just be reassured that you don't have to have all of the answers right away. You're going to grow, and it's okay to just take on the projects that you feel confident taking on in the moment, and the rest is going to come with time.
Well, and also I feel like our group is so awesome. You can ask anybody
Yeah.
anything, and whether they've been doing it for 15, 20 years or a week, they
Yeah.
they still have like questions. You
Yeah.
might come across something, ask the group.
What were some of the first steps that you took? I know we kind of already went through this a little bit, but like you mentioned, like you watched the videos and you're like, oh, there's a membership. But what were some other things that you did, whether it was like in your personal life, like talking with your family about it, or other practical steps to just get towards a little bit more comfortable, feeling a little more comfortable to do the thing?
Yeah, well, my husband's always supportive. He
Mhm.
was supportive with the other endeavors, and his income is enough
Yeah.
for us. So anything I bring to the table is just gravy and just extra
Yeah.
for us.
That's awesome.
So he was always supportive, and my rest of my family is awesome as well. They're like, "You can
Hmm.
do this, mom."
Now your youngest, you're like, okay, hurry up with the schooling thing because mom's gonna start a business. So I'm not gonna
Yes.
graduate.
Yes. So first steps I did was I did join the membership and I did the VIP
Oh, yes. Yeah. I forgot
membership
about that. Yeah.
with
Mhm.
you, which was amazing. Just
Mhm.
that guidance step by step of
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
The website was intimidating, but I
Yeah.
got that done.
You got that done. Checked it off the list. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the VIP membership is, it's just kind of the top tier of the membership. We have regular calls. So as you're working through the trainings and like the backlog of our videos and trainings, you and I would have one-on-one calls to talk through all the steps. So, and for where you were, it was like, okay, anything that came up or like any hesitations or things that felt like I'm not quite sure, it's like we just had that scheduled call to talk through the things. And then we both love to-do lists. So that
Yes.
was also great. So we had the to-do list.
Love my list.
Yeah. And the website, oh my, did you end up using Squarespace or what's your
Did
host? Okay. And
Squarespace.
then what came in handy, now that I'm thinking back, you had a family member who was kind of more tech savvy, or was it your daughter-in-law, or who was it that kind of helped with that side of things?
My son is
Okay.
a digital animator, so he
Perfect.
did help me a bit, but
Mhm.
it was pretty intuitive, I thought.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like, and I needed, so my brother-in-law is a graphic designer. And so when I started, I was like, help me. Like, I remember I just needed him to like log in and set like the colors because I just felt like it was so much. Like I couldn't do one thing. And so if you have just one person in your life who feels a little bit confident with, setting up a website, and they can just sit with you as you turn it on, or like plug in the first couple buttons or something that can boost your confidence so much, because the more you play with it, like you said, it's pretty intuitive, and a lot of these website hosts are now made for people like us who are not super tech savvy, and got to make it pretty, got to keep the cookies on a low shelf here. But having just one person that can step in and help is kind of a game changer, because then you're like, okay, I got the first step. now I feel confident to do more on my own. But so kudos to your son for stepping in.
And my daughter-in-law also,
Yeah.
she with the colors, when you said
Yes.
that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, she did."
What are you in the middle of right now? Do you have like a specific thing that you're focused on right now?
Right now, I am working on getting my name out to the local bridal salons and wedding planners.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Early on in the planning phase, getting in touch with those other vendors where brides connect early on in the wedding planning stages. Yeah, that's super smart. Have you met with shop owners yet? Or have you just, you're kind of like in like the reaching out process?
I'm in the reaching out process. I'm actually gonna go to a bridal expo
Oh, cool.
and maybe give them my card. I don't wanna
Yep. Yeah.
yeah.
Bring them some snacks, bring your
Yes,
card, something to have them. Yeah, we've talked about that where it's like if you show up to these events, you want to be like, oh, I'm treating you to something,
yes.
as your little,
I
that's an
feel like
awesome idea.
I feel like for me, that would be a little easier than, like, cold calling a shop right
Right.
now,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm gonna try and do that because 'cause I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone.
Like all the scary things. I just
Yes.
saw something, I think it was in Bridal Alterations Anonymous. That's a Facebook group for those of you who don't know, but somebody had mentioned just getting the nerve to finally like talk to their local shops. And I was like, oh, that took me back because I remember like just feeling sweaty in the car. Like, okay, I got to introduce myself. I had like, like a folder with stuff to show them. And I like just the nerves. Yes. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, now we all have great relationships, but the cold calls are scary. So I like the idea of just easing into an expo. You can always walk away if things get awkward, like, oh, what's that booth over there?
Yes.
Just scoot away. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the full spectrum of experiences because this has been going on for what, like the past year, right? I feel like this is
Yeah.
almost the whole 2023. So if you can share some wins, maybe some things that have been considered as like unexpected bumps along the way, give us specifics. That's what I want.
I initially was going to start right in June, right
Hmm.
after my daughter's wedding,
Yeah.
but I didn't do anything really because I was just, like, focusing on getting the dress done.
Yes, and
And
being like the mother of the bride, so that's also a
yeah,
big job.
yeah.
Yeah,
So when May came and went, I was like, "Oh, no, I don't have
yeah.
anything." And so,
And, "Oh,
uh
no, I'm tired, the wedding's over, so now I'm exhausted, I wasn't planning on this."
and I also was having some renovations done in the house to make it
Mhm.
more suitable, like a private entrance, so customers wouldn't have
Yeah.
to go through my
Yes, yeah, which is
living room
awesome.
and everything, yeah,
Mhm,
and there was some delays with that,
mhm. Out of your
um,
control, yeah,
yes, I mean, the room I intended to have my fittings in is still a work in progress,
yeah,
so this room will actually be the room that,
it's beautiful, I love that fireplace.
um thank you, I
Yeah.
will be seeing clients in.
Mhm.
So that was a little bump. Just taking just that learning curve of the website, social media, just all
Yeah,
the things.
yeah, the list is long.
Yeah.
Do you have something specific that you're like, this was like a win and that's the boost that I needed to keep going? Because I feel like sometimes when we have these big goals or like, no matter where you are in your business, once you set the next goal, sometimes you get so focused on that that you don't think about, oh, these are like little small wins. And that's what kind of builds like our self-efficacy. Like, okay, I can get stuff done. Like I can complete the things, they're going to turn out well. So being able to recognize these like even really small wins is pretty big, for our
Yeah.
mental health. So were there specific things that stood out as like, oh my goodness, that was a win. I needed that. I needed that just to give me that little boost to keep going.
Yeah, I guess like the pictures that I posted of the wedding, I got a
Hmm.
lot of good feedback from that, and I got a couple mother of the brides contact me for
Yeah.
alterations. So I got an LLC.
Yes.
So that was like a
That's
big
huge.
deal. I'm trying to think.
I like how you said, because when you started, like your Instagram is brand new, like I know you've had Instagram, but like your professional Instagram is new. And so it's always scary thinking of like, hey, what's the first post going to look like? Or like, how are people going to react? Or, and so getting that boost when you first just kind of showcased your work or introduced yourself, that is really big. So I can imagine that just being like, okay, that first step's done, like phew, and now I can focus on the next thing, you know?
Yeah, it just took me forever to post that first post because I just kept changing it, you know what I mean? And
Just stayed in drafts like forever, like keep editing.
yeah, and now I just have to be more consistent. That's a
Yeah.
goal of mine
Hmm.
now is I didn't do the challenge. I wish I had done the
Oh yeah, we had an Instagram challenge recently, and that would have been a good. Well, I'd like to get something even for us to use as almost like a cheat sheet, like some kind of like captions cheat sheet, or like, okay, if you're getting ready to post, here's something that you can just easily plug in. Because I hear that a lot of like, okay, I want to do it, but it's just thinking of the captions or thinking about like the content, you know. So having a
thing.
cheat sheet, I think, might help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you had some wins. The LLC is a big one because it's like that is such like a it messes with your head because you feel like it's going to be this huge. I need to like pay all this money to register and like it's going to be taking forever online to, and it really is like a 10-minute process. Was it like 10 minutes for you?
Yeah, it really didn't take that long at
But it
all.
takes up a lot of space in your head when you're thinking about it. How were your mothers of the brides that you worked with that contacted you through those posts?
Good, good. There
Good.
I finished both, but
Nice.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now I have other sewing stuff that's not bridal related.
Yeah, you're just couldn't, yeah, like keep it
Yeah.
coming in, keep stuff coming in until things like build up with those bridal shops. Or a lot of times, this is a huge thing that comes up with seamstresses is like the first couple years, there's a struggle figuring out prices. And that's something that you mentioned earlier in the call. So how are you working through setting your prices, knowing like, okay, I have skills, but like this is my first year, this will be my first official year. Like, how did you work through that? Because I know that's a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, that is a huge thing. I'm still in the process. One of our members had a spreadsheet
Hmm.
that I I've taken and plugged in my own, you know, hourly rate that I would
Yeah.
like to have. And then I'm still adjusting it for like the time it takes me.
Hmm.
I would look and I'm like, there's no way I could do that in that short amount of time.
Yes. That
So
honesty is key. Like
yeah,
saving yourself.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
that humility right there. Like
Hmm.
you think you can do something and
Oh
then
my
you're like,
goodness. And
that's why.
still, I don't know why I still feel like whenever I go to like hem a lining, it's going to take me 10 minutes. Like even if I zip through, it never like it's like physically impossible to take 10 minutes because you have to like sew and cut and press. It's like, what
Yeah.
is wrong with me? So yeah, I'm still like, okay, girl, like that's a basic. Like, let's go. Just because you did
But
all the time.
I think in one of our membership meetings, I remember people just saying, you know, make sure you're charging your worth.
Hmm.
And that with the imposter syndrome is sometimes hard, you know,
Oh
because
yeah.
oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
know, really charge that. But so
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And I think too, like as you build your confidence and as you grow, the more clients that you see, the more work you have under your belt and the more that you can finesse your work and your product, yeah, that's normal for your prices to gradually be raised. And that's good. Like we always want to just be kind of taking a fresh look at our local service providers, just outside of even the sewing industry, but just what's the hourly rate for service providers in our area. And then also like taking into consideration your experience. But when you're first starting out, you still have skills and you still have a need that you're fulfilling for your clients. And you're still in a market of, we say all the time, like it's a dying art, and being exclusive and offering like this special service that not many people in your area provide, that still allows you to charge more than probably what initially you would think to charge, because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, you do know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And like the prices can grow, or the cost of each item can grow, but there's that balance of not selling yourself short, but also allowing room for growth and acknowledging to like, okay, well, I'm in a portfolio year. First couple of years are always, I mean, when I think back to my portfolio years, I'm like, I know I did not charge enough like at all, but what it really did for me is it helped me like grow the clientele. I got super solid on my skills and it really helped with my communication. I think that was the biggest thing is looking back, I'm like, I didn't handle situations well. I just got really stressed, or like I didn't know how to communicate very well or articulate. And those things that needed a lot of finessing. It's like, okay, that I think that may have justified my super low prices, but so I can see both sides, you know what I mean? Of hesitating to charge what we consider like, full price. And then also I see the side of, well, we still have a really valuable skill. So it's like, why would you charge less? So it's a kind of a good argument to be made. So I wonder back I'll get on this conversation, but yeah, I can see
Yeah,
both
because
sides,
I remember just giving, the quote
Hmm.
for the alterations and not, they didn't bat an eye
Yeah.
at it. And so then I'm thinking, oh, did I charge not enough? Or,
Hmm.
you know, or am I okay? So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like not even really knowing where you stand in the spectrum of your own area. And so
right.
for listeners who haven't heard of this awesome resource, Adrienne Gonzalez, her
Yeah.
Instagram is Creatable Lady. And I know she's really involved in like these Facebook groups for seamstresses. And she has a great resource. She has a price list that she works off of. She's in Arizona, but it's just like a great place to start. And then also something that Adrienne taught us in a training was if you are starting out and you're feeling like, okay, I don't have the confidence necessarily to charge as a specialist because I'm kind of brand new. I don't know where I want to fit in this pricing spectrum. She suggested to call local dry cleaners. So that is kind of like, base price general alterations, and you're really getting a firm grip on the lowest price in your local area. And then you can see where you want to fit like in there, like between like the specialists and then your general tailors at dry cleaners. And that kind of gives you at least the knowledge of the wide range of the spectrum. And then you can decide like where you fit. But I thought that was a great little nugget that Adrienne gave us, because I'm like, oh, that's a great place to start. When it's like, where do I even pull these numbers from? Like as you're first getting started.
Yeah, I forgot about looking up the local dry cleaners, but
Yeah.
I'm
Just
going
to
to
even get a
do
sense of like what's happening in my area. I don't know. Like
right.
we don't know. And there's another heated conversation about the cost, the different cost of alterations based on where you live, but I do believe like it 100% is different based on where you live and your local cost of living. And so like, maybe what I would charge is not the same as what you would charge in Berks County or whatever. So it's like having that insight from your local small businesses or your local industry is like priceless. So we got all these shout outs. It's like, thank you, Brenda LeBold. Thank you, Adrienne Gonzalez. Like we all need each other here.
Yeah, and there are a few forums with other
Hmm.
seamstresses. One is Brenda's
Yeah.
forum where she has, seamstresses will post, well, what can I charge? What would you charge for this?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's been very helpful as
Yeah.
well.
What is that called? I'm thinking of,
Discord?
yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
she has a Discord channel to log into, and it's a great little community in there too. What other resources? So we've already talked about our membership, obviously. Ooh. And then you have Discord and then YouTube. What else has helped you?
Yeah, that's really my main three.
Okay, so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but what do you have any big goals for 2024? Or maybe even not huge goals, but like normal goals that you'd be willing to share with us?
Ah, I was thinking about this. I would like to start out small, like you said. I'd be happy to do bridesmaids, mother of the brides, those
Mm.
things, to really hone my
Yeah.
skills.
Hmm.
But I would like to get 4 brides a month. I think that would be enough for me to handle.
Yeah.
And
That's great to have a number like that. That's really smart. Like, okay, this is give me kind of like one a week almost.
yeah, because I
Ideally, we
feel,
can't, we like to break it up that way, but it's like,
you
well,
know, it probably
chances are
wouldn't.
they'll all be clubbed in on one weekend.
Probably, but that's okay. I think I will cap it at that just
Hmm.
for my comfort level,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
because I don't know if I'll have to be up till midnight,
Right.
those couple or not.
Right, right. Yeah. Especially as, like you said, you love making gowns from scratch. So, like, every seam and every piece, like, as opposed to alterations where you do kind of have to like dig around and like, it's like a puzzle. Like, how do
Right.
I get to the bottom of this? And okay. So, I think that's so smart to give yourself a really attainable goal. Okay, I can get this done this month without feeling like super overwhelmed. And then you're able to like time your tasks so you can really anticipate how long things truly take you before like, I'm going to take 15 a month. And then, you lose yourself in that
and
dark
I'll
hole
be
of sewing
puddled on the
till
floor.
2 a.m. Exactly. All right. So what about your 5-year goal or 5-year plan?
I go back and forth from being at home versus
Mhm.
possibly having a business space. I mean, that
Oh,
does sound
okay.
fun,
Yes.
but at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't know, because in 5 years, I will be in my 60s, just in my 60s,
Wow.
just a little.
Congratulations. I would not have guessed that. So congratulations.
But so I'm not sure if I
Yeah.
would to go into that, but I
Yep.
would like to possibly have an employee or someone who I could bring in. I hopefully have enough business that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could have an employee or two.
Yeah.
I love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to do some sort of mentoring program,
Mm.
having maybe an intern come in and teach them
Oh,
the
yeah. The skills.
skills because, like you said, we're a dying breed and we're going to need more seamstresses. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think there's kind of like this missing link that there's people who want to get into like maybe the fashion industry or like fashion design, but then there's also like this huge need with alterations. Like that is such a it's like a separate entity, but having a local resource where like they could come and learn with you and like learn the like nitty-gritty sewing skills or taking apart the dress skills or like you said, like getting to the puzzle of the dress. How do we get
yeah.
in here to change it? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so for listeners who are like maybe where you were in January, like kind of just thinking of like, do I do this? Or like, I don't know if I can. And you've already given a lot of insight, but do you have like final words of wisdom or things that maybe you wish you knew in January? Let's say it that way.
That's a good question. Just do it, right? Just don't be afraid. I mean, I'm literally every day panicking, but you always have that doubt. You're like, I can do
Yeah.
it. All of a sudden, I'm like, ugh. But
Hmm.
just keep giving yourself the grace. Like I feel I'm a perfectionist, right? So if
Hmm.
something's not perfect, that kind of can put me at a halt.
Yeah.
So I am really this year trying to work through my perfectionism and just giving myself grace. And it's what I would say to anybody who wants to try this, just do it. And
Yeah. Yeah. And don't expect to know everything when you first get started. Like,
yeah,
it's okay to be unsure. It's okay to make mistakes along the way, or maybe change your business name, or like whatever these things that we get so stuck up on, or like if you file your taxes wrong, you might the first year, you may mess up. And it's like, okay, giving yourself grace to just like move through that. You may have a client that ends up being a little bit scary and you're like, oh, I should have weeded them out. Well, maybe, but on to the next one. So
just try to find a group.
yeah.
That was really key for me, is finding people. I mean, I don't always ask the questions. I'll just kind of sit there and listen without answers. But yeah, reach
Yeah.
out and
Yeah, and that's true because we're so used to like when we think about a normal like working environment, you have people that you can ask questions or like people who work there longer and you're like, "Oh, how would you handle this situation?" or like, "How do you handle these kind of clients?" Like that's normal when I look back at all the jobs that I had through college or whatever and even teaching, like it was great to have my coworkers to talk through issues and then working alone, I was like, this is what I always wanted, working alone. And then I'm like, oh, I'm alone. So it's
yeah,
like, okay. It's just such a game changer to have people, like you said. I love how you mentioned earlier, people, whether they've been sewing for 15, 20 years or just got this thing started, they still have questions. Like nobody has arrived. I think that's like, we're all still learning. We're all still going to have like weird situations that come up that we need help with clients. Like it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It just means that like we're all still learning. And that's part of working with human beings. There's gonna be
that was
situations
huge.
that come up or like mistakes that we make, and it's like, icky, like I need help. So,
Yeah, and
all
to
right.
see that other people have those problems and
Yeah.
you're not alone is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want one more thing because I was thinking about, okay, where can our listeners find you all that stuff? And I wanted you to tell us the story behind your name because naming your business is like one of the biggest stressors ever. Like that is what I feel like people are like, "Ah, name it, blah, blah, blah." And it's like such a, because it's like forever. And then, you get in your head about it. And does it communicate the right message and all this stuff? So tell us about Fleurette and how that came to be because it's so cute.
Oh, okay. So
And the quote that went with it, which is so
um,
sweet.
Fleurette is French for little flower.
Mhm.
I have my patron saint is Saint Therese of Lisieux, and she had a quote, and she was also called the little flower of Jesus. So,
Oh, okay.
but she has a quote that says something to the effect of that the beauty of the rose doesn't take away from the beauty of the lily.
Yeah.
So that to me was like everyone is unique and everyone is beautiful in their own way. And
Mhm.
that's how I wanted my brides to feel. And her mission, I guess, in her life was to do, she had the mission of the little ways. Everything you do, every little thing you do should be to glorify God.
Mhm.
And so just doing what I feel like is my little part in this bride's life is
Yeah. Yeah, that is so sweet. I love that. And it's like, it's so you, and then we just added a little French twist to it. That's beautiful. So tell us where to find you. If you want listeners to go to your website, do you want us to go to your Instagram? Tell us where to go.
sure. My Instagram is at Florette Bridal Alterations, and my website is florettebridalalterations.com.
Keeping it easy. Perfect.
Yes. And my Facebook is Florette Bridal Alterations LLC.
Oh, nice. Add that little LLC in there just to mix things up. Keep it
Yes.
spicy. So would you feel comfortable if listeners like reached out to you if they had questions about getting started? I think it's so good to know like other people are where we are too. And like there are people who want to talk us through it and help us through the steps. So if you are listening and you're like, oh, I've been on the brink, then chat with Marianne. She's like the nicest person you'll ever meet. So
You're awesome. Your podcasts are awesome. I can't wait for the retreat.
oh, oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, yeah, Austin's coming up. So that'll be a game changer too. I think that'll be such a confidence booster for you.
I'm
I
very
think you're
excited.
gonna walk away and be like, oh yeah, I can totally take brides. Because there's still a little hesitancy, like who you're gonna take. And then I think after that, you're gonna be like, okay, I got this. So okay, we'll see you in Austin. And thank you so much for this conversation. And let us
You're
know if you're listening. You can reach out to either one of us if you are in this stage of life where you're thinking of starting the biz. You have two people to talk to now. So our DMs are open. All right. Thanks, Marianne. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And if you're feeling really generous, leave a review. Thanks, everyone.